Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic number 269. The brightly witted amongst you may have noticed that last week was 268, but there was no 267. That's because I am an incompetent. But besides that, I'd just like to say thank you for joining us this week at sonicstate.com/live. Every Wednesday, we're streaming this video, and we're also streaming the audio. There's a live chat room for those of you who want to join us. In fact, we have a nice, fulsome amount of people here today, so thank you very much for coming in. And we've also got 3 panellists here. I think we'll go to Mark Tinley first, because he's in a different scene. Where are you, Mark? You look like you're somewhere else. What's going on here?
I'm in the cellar of my house, in the green room.
The green room, is that like where you keep your guests before you bring them upstairs to have conversations with you?
No, it's the house it's the room that nobody is allowed to go to when they visit our house, because it's literally where I dump all of my music tech gear, and I'm surrounded by piles of CDs and broken guitars and things.
That sounds like very similar to what's going on in my room here, except in my room I'm surrounded by nothing broken, but I've got the Casio XWP1 right there, and then in the background you might notice that we've got a new white wall, kind of infinity wall set up. I just thought I'd switch the lights on so that people could see that we'd been making progress of some kind. We've now actually changed it so the entire back end of the room is a full set, so we've got a lot more space to play with. But anyway, I'm sure that's not of much interest to all that many people, but thanks for joining us, Mark. Appreciate that. And we'll now go over to Mr. Richard Hilton, who is over there in Connecticut. Sunny Connecticut, I have no doubt, because it's certainly sunny here, so it's got to be sunny there, right?
It's a little cloudy at the moment, and it rained last night, but it is beautiful out. The plant life is thriving. The birds are singing. It's beautiful. I
can hear them a little bit. Yeah, we've got it hot, and I've got the air conditioning on in here, actually, because there's so many lights on now. But thank you for joining us. And you're going to be, you were saying in the pre-show that you're going to be travelling quite a lot this month, the next couple of months, over to the UK.
It's true. Through to and from the UK a few times, and through bits of Europe as well. So, yeah, I'll post the schedule so everybody can figure it out.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I look forward to it. Hopefully we might be able to hook up. That'd be great fun.
I'd love that.
Excellent. And finally, we're going over to Mr. Dave Spiers from g4software.com, who's sat there in his room. I swear, either your seat's getting lower or your pile of synth is getting higher. You seem even more dwarfed by technology than usual.
Like that.
Yeah.
At the end of the week.
Yeah.
Well, I can play them like
that. Excellent. So Dave's here from G4 Software, makers of fine musical instruments. In fact, I believe we timed it. It's timed to perfection. The Propeller Heads developer kind of testimonial video came out today, which was pretty much a love fest from you lot, and you featured nicely. And in fact, we featured in it as well at Sonic Tour. In fact, almost this very shot, something very similar to this shot, I believe. So. What does that mean then? Does that mean your stuff's ready to go, or does it mean that there's it's just closer to go? What was the purpose of that video?
I forget when the actual release date is. It's very early June, but yeah, we're pretty much there. You know, we got some patching to do, and yeah, it was really exciting actually to kind of get it. To be honest, Chris has kind of managed this more than I've been involved. My bit will come in a minute, but he's dealt with all the kind of graphics and the programming side of things, kind of liaising with that. So yeah, it's really exciting, and actually getting that vid, because they came over and filmed it a couple of months back, and then when I saw it this morning, I'd kind of woken up in my blurry state and kind of went, oh wow, yeah, right, let's get out of bed and go to work.
Excellent.
So it's kind of nice and optimistic.
So what can you tell us what it is that you will be releasing? There were a couple of shots in there, weren't there, that looked looked like they could tell us something?
Yeah. First of all, we're doing the Tron.
Kind of doing Retron. Yeah,
exactly. We thought it was a nice name, rack extension Tron. But it's kind of it's similar to the M-Tron Pro, but the sounds in it from the off will be. We've done a deal with the Streetly guys, obviously, because they're the original tapes. So this will be a kind of special edition.
Okay.
And then we're kind of we've got something else that I'm only kind of going to talk about things when I know that they're absolutely ready, and I know that the back panel was being worked on today or being finished today. So that's really exciting. This ability to interconnect things.
So you're going to start. You're going to take the Apple approach. Start wearing a black polo neck shirt and only talking about things when they're ready to ship, right?
Yeah, that's the man. Well, blimey. Yeah, I used to wear a black polo neck shirt, and then maybe when I took it off and started wearing other things, we started completely missing all of our schedules.
There you are.
So yeah, maybe kind of slipping back into that would be a good thing. No, it's really exciting for us, and it was kind of nice company to be in. But I said it before we were online. I still think the best comment of the entire video goes to the Utonic guy who said, "You flip it over to the backside, and that's where the magic happens." That's the name.
Ah, yes. Well, anyway, well, look, I guess I'm going to have to now. The only problem about this is I'm actually going to have to spend some time getting to know Reason and spending some time on it, which is kind of a bit daunting, just in terms.
It's really exciting for us because, like, when we originally released the Tron, initially, and I think I've said this story a few times, is that what we got was a lot of CDs in from people with kind of remakes of prog rock stuff, and for us that was like, yeah, well, we kind of worked for the original people, and whilst it was nice to get this stuff in, it didn't really inspire us to kind of, and we were kind of looking at each other on a few occasions thinking, we've created a monster.
So now, in Reason, it'll all be dance beats, yeah?
Well, what then happened was you had a lot of trip-hop guys started using it, and people just using it who, like a younger generation who didn't have any of this kind of prog baggage, but they knew that they loved that kind of old vintage vibe sound, or those strings, or that flute sound. So they started using it in a very kind of fresh and different way, and that kind of blew us away when we started getting those CDs in. And I was kind of, it's sort of our hope with this, really. It's kind of why we chose it as the first project, that another generation of Reason users will come and use it in a different way.
Well, I wish you the best of luck of that, and we'll obviously keep close attention to that. Meanwhile, I think we're going to go and join our first topic of the day, which was incidentally also sent in by you, Dave, spotted, and it span off some other interesting stuff. So here we go.
The two oscillators can be controlled separately.
This is Nick's World of Synthesizers, who I will actually now bring up online here. This is... I discovered this. This guy has put a couple of things up online, and he basically makes his own synths. It's quite interesting, a lot of the stuff. He says, I've been making musical instruments for about 10 years. With all my inventions, I'm trying to make something special you can't buy anywhere else, which I'd say was true. I mainly use analog electronics to build my instruments. I think analog sound is timeless because of its infinite depth and character. Nick's World of Synthesizers. What a great... some of the things that he made were absolutely fantastic, I thought. Dave, where did you actually first hear of it? I mean, how did this come to your attention?
Actually, Dean from iMonster, I did this thing in Sheffield last week. He said that this guy's a mate of his, and in fact, I can see that Dean's done some demos. And I started looking at and first of all, I just looked at this Chaos Engine thing, which I really love the sound of, and I think it's like 80 quid, so I've got to have at least one of these. And then I started looking at the videos and seeing the Slinky, that giant Slinky machine.
Oh yeah, that was a great idea, isn't it?
Sounded raucous when he was bowing it and stuff. Absolutely brilliant. And he's
there it is,
kind of
sort of in a grand piano kind of casement with. There was some very interesting. I wasn't sure what was going on with those knobs where it changed the level of the. Seemed to change the. You got this really amazing phasing and all sorts of stuff going on.
It just screamed beautifully.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
And there was the one I really liked was the Harmonicon, which I think, Mark, it was something that you said you wanted, those dolly mixture type things. There it is there.
Yeah, I like the dolly mixtures.
I wonder if I can find a sound for it. It just...
How fickle of me.
I might be able to play that. We can just quickly play it. Just sounded absolutely... It's like a harmonium, only mad.
Yeah.
And the one thing that there's some pictures of it here, and there's the keyboard, and he's developed his own kind of like octave setup. But the one thing that's brilliant, there's a little quote at the bottom of it which says, "When I finished making it, I was very pleased how rich the sound was. I don't really know why it sounds so good."
Excellent.
Which is kind of what you want from any mad synthesizer boffin kind of chap, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. This whole when he goes in his cave and kind of does all those bits and pieces, it's just like, it's so British. Man in a shed, even better, man in a cave,
Total
making
matters.
synthesizers.
Mark, I'm guessing that you might have found this sort of somewhat inspiring, with being that you've got some kind of circuit bending background to your history, and were you inspired by this?
I'm always inspired by people like this and things like this. And I mean, I think let's say, I did a physics O level when I was at school, and I was so rubbish at physics that me and this friend of mine, Scott Brynan, decided to take the electronics option. And what that meant was playing around with oscilloscopes and making things. So I've always liked making things, getting the soldering iron out and mucking around with stuff. Radios are always good. Poking around in circuit bending radios. I've always done that since I was like about 15 years old. And I've made I made an octavider out of a medium wave radio. I have no idea why it turned it into an octavider.
It just worked.
I'd put my finger on, I'd open the circuit up and then put my finger on various different places until something went zzz, and then I'd think, right, okay, that constitutes an input because it's humming, so it must.
Disclaimer, folks, don't put your finger on things that are powered by mains.
Yes, well, that happened later.
Yeah, of course, it's bound to, isn't it?
My black and white television into a guitar amp, which was great until I lent the guitar on the radiator and the strings exploded because they were all live, and of course the radiator was earth. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Priceless.
Holding on to like a 240 volt or higher voltage rail,
I know it is. I like the idea of this kind of slightly eccentric, almost totally unqualified to be on camera, and obviously doesn't enjoy that part of it very much, but it's still, just making this a brilliant stuff. There's all sorts of brilliant things here. Rich, did you get a chance to check this out? I mean, there's some lovely sounding electronics here.
Yeah, I looked through the videos. They were fun. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about it except that I love the spirit of adventurism that comes with a guy who wants to build his own like that. I think that's cool. And it reminds me of the beginning days where I'd run into guys with PAIA kits and stuff, except this is even more homebrew than that. And occasionally I'd run into guys with more homebrew than that back then too, but not so much in the intervening years. So I think it's really kind of encouraging in that regard. No. And it was interesting.
Lovely stuff, though. nicksworldofsynthesizers.com. If you want to get an opportunity to go and check that out, we've got stuff like the Beast, the Harmonicon oscilloscope, the Springtron, the Slinkies is fantastic. The string resonator sounds beautiful as well. I haven't checked everything else. The plate reverb, it just looks really kind of plate reverb. I mean, that really does look like a big plate. There's nothing. There it is. There's nothing more you can say to it. It's a very big plate of steel in a box, which is kind of what an EMT is anyway, but obviously with a bit more finesse to it. But thoroughly recommended, and lots and lots of reminds of Harry says it reminds him of the Duotron Spirit, which is the Genotron, which we saw at NAMM. Just that kind of crazy boxed stuff, electronics. Very, very nice. Right, what have we got next? Yes. Let's see if I can get this to play. I'm trying to play things from the browser at the moment, just in case we get busted for the video side of things. So if I'm there, then it's all right, apparently. This is the National Brass Symposium. At the National Brass Symposium, this was, in fact, the brass section of the Boston Pops. Just making a little funny about how they warm up. I'll skip through it a little bit.
Yeah. The BSO brass has a really unique sound. You could say it's the hall. Maybe you could say it's the hall. Maybe you could say it's the way we articulate. Really, though, I think it has to do with how intense we all are about our individual warm-up. Oh, and our group warm-up. Group warm-ups are absolutely crucial.
Right, as you can hear there, that was a kind of amusing anecdote from the various people in the brass section only. They didn't go into the warm-ups of anybody else. But first of all, I wondered, are there any kind of routines that you lot have or know of, people who before they go on stage or perform have a very specific? Because we are creatures of habit, like for instance, when I'm doing the podcast, it's not particularly kind of like a major performance, but I have to kind of focus and zone in. If I get people coming around and sort of talking to me and just kind of trying to make conversation, I really can't handle it. I need to sort of zone in on what I got to do, otherwise I just lose it and I can't concentrate on what I need to do. And I'm guessing for playing, there's a similar principle. I'm guessing, Rich, you're the guys playing in kind of large venues, probably on a more regular basis than the rest of us. Have you got a particular ritual that you follow, or are you kind of pretty easygoing when it comes to that?
Yeah, I sit in the dressing room and wish I had a proper keyboard to warm up on while I watch the other band members warming up. That's my ritual.
After all these years?
Yeah, because there just never is one, and it's fine. I'm not complaining. It just would be really nice to play for about 10 or 15 minutes before I went on, because it gets you, like any athletic participatory event in your life. When you first start out doing it, isn't your best. You need a little time to get your body into it,
right.
And the blood pumping and things moving and the muscles loosened, and you get to your peak performance a certain portion of the way into doing it. And so the idea of warming up is to get past that so that when you show up on stage, you're ready to go. And the guitarists and the horn players are very glad to be able to do that.
Well, I suppose they can just
and
walk
the drummers.
Would you? How many octaves would you need to make it work? Could you just do it with have a little octave, or 2 octaves?
No. No. For me, I need 4 octaves and a weighted keyboard. But more than 4. In other words, I need to be able to play 4 octave scales on a weighted keyboard and things like that on a weighted keyboard and get my sense of lateral motion. No, I'm picky that way. I'm a piano player.
Sorry, no, I just wonder whether there's...
I'm a piano player since I was really little.
It sounds to me like there should be a product out there, like something that you can have in a case that just flips open and you've got
some guys carry that stuff.
Oh, really? You can get that kind of thing?
We don't. It's not really in the rider.
Right. It's quite an obscure piece of equipment unless you've got another, if whatever you're hiring, just hire me another one so I can have it in the dressing room.
No, and there is usually a spare, but it's up on stage, and that's not usually where the dressing room is, especially at a festival.
Right, of course, yeah.
We're doing a lot of festivals right now, but even pretty much very rarely do I get to warm up. I'm not here to complain about it. It's just you said.
No, but it's circumstantially. I can imagine.
That's my ritual. As I sit there and I watch everybody else warm.
Interesting. Are there any kind of particularly weird warm-up routines you've come across, or behaviour with people? Obviously, names, no names, please. But there must be. One gets exposed to all sorts of things. When I was doing a lot of live sound, there people get into all sorts of weird mental zones, particularly singers before gigs.
Well, the strangest thing like that I ever saw was a woman showed up for a recording session with her hypnotist. That's not really related to your question, but it's just in terms of what do people do to prepare for their performances, that would fall into the most weird category.
That sounds like a sensible thing to do to me, but...
There you go. See? Who am I to say? And the guy was great. I really enjoyed talking to the guy, the hypnotist. So, and who knows if she sang better or whatever. Who cares?
Interesting.
Well...
Mark, I'm guessing, I'd like to think that you have something really unique that you like to do to warm up before a gig, but that's just my fantasy, probably.
I haven't done well. I did do a gig a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't really do anything to warm up other than have a huge panic attack. So,
but it's in some respects that's actually what part of the warm up is to prevent, isn't it? Because everybody's kind of slightly on the edge before a gig. I know I certainly would be. Just to sort of, that's why people get so touchy often about their space or their routine before this kind of level of performance, because anything that upsets that balance can really kind of throw you.
The other thing I do is I'm a civil celebrant, so I name people's children, and having panic attacks when you're naming people's children, good. I'm getting myself into a real zone before I go and do that. And that does involve a significant amount of ritual, which involves Gina keeping East well out of my way, so that nothing can kind of zone in. And it's almost like I create this kind of bubble around myself. World of like naming someone's child, and I'm in like this kind of cosmic zone. It's ever so weird. And then I kind of step into it, do the naming ceremony, and then I come out feeling really quite high and elated.
Right.
So that's quite, I mean, I suppose that's the same kind of thing. It's still a performance. It's just a speaking performance and not a musical performance. But
Yeah, no, well, it is exactly the same kind of thing. Definitely. Dave Spiers.
Yeah.
Got anything that you can, like, for instance, before your Propeller Heads video, what was your warm-up routine?
Yeah, it was a couple of jokes and a tap dance routine. No, I don't know. Hallucinogenics, alcohol, anything really that's to hand. No, but seriously, I don't. Do you know? I think honestly, whenever I've done a kind of NAMM presentation or any of a couple of minutes peace and quiet's normally good, but normally it's so chaotic, and I do quite enjoy a bit of chaos. And Chris is, there's always a ton of banter going on between me and Chris. Actually, you don't get time to think about it, so you just do it. And occasionally, very occasionally, I'll get perhaps halfway through something and it suddenly dawn on me what I'm doing, and that might throw me a little bit. The worst scenario I had was when we took Wakeman to NAMM. That was hilarious. In fact, it wasn't funny in the slightest, because I was kind of preparing. I think you guys were there filming it and
Yeah,
stuff.
I think we were, yeah.
I was kind of... Rick and I had decided that we were... I hate rehearsed stuff, as you well know. And Rick and I had decided that we were just going to improvise the whole thing and just kind of bluff our way through it, which is... I think if you're passionate about something, then that's probably the way to do it. So we were... This was like about an hour before... I was kind of getting things ready on stage and just busying myself to kind of keep my mind occupied and stuff. And I looked down and Rick had just arrived and he had both arms in plaster. And my first thought was, shit. And my second thought was, are we in short? At which point he just grabbed the plaster and peeled them off and went, got ya.
Oh, that's nice.
Which was brilliant because actually that set the tone for the whole thing, and it just makes a joke makes everybody relax.
Yeah, well, that's true. I think I probably find that I like to know that everything is working beforehand. Particularly for something like this. The part of this like ritual for the podcast or anything that I have to do, a review, whatever. I have to set things up and make sure that I know things are working, because I don't want to find out that when I press a button or something else that actually I forgot to plug it in or any of that kind of stuff. So I do like to prepare and then have a moment just to sort of sit so that I can think if I've forgotten anything and that kind of thing. And as far as musical performances go, I mean, so occasionally, I might try and do a slightly stage managed kind of, here's a patch and another patch and then I add this and that, and there's a little bit of that to maybe demoing this keyboard or whatever, and I have to go over that a few times and kind of get in the zone. If anything interrupts that, then it's all gone, because I've got such a small sort of memory available for now that I need to kind of really drill it into myself. So yeah, I don't know.
I find that sometimes afterwards actually is when I kind of get a bit weirded out. I remember doing one particular event, and afterwards somebody started kind of asking, like collaring me and asking me all these kind of questions and stuff like that. And I remember being a bit snappy at the time, thinking that's kind of not really like me.
Right.
But yeah, no, interesting. But can I just say, I found these guys quite frightening actually. This video.
Really?
Yeah, they were quite sinister, I thought. And I didn't watch all of it. It was quite scary.
Right. Let me see. What else have we got? Oh, actually, no. There was something I wanted to add to this. This was also brought up a question about, what are the personality types of an orchestra? And I just found some really good descriptions of it, and I just wondered where any of these actually make sense to you. Apparently, I found this on via Yahoo Answers, and it was posted by someone called Sirius Wyme. And violin, way too competitive, self-centered and egotistical. Viola, the middle child, the middle child mentality, the underdog, violoncello, sexiest strings players, the cool ones. I'm guessing this person might be a violoncello player. String bass, always confused, very timid and quiet. Flute, talkative and confident. Oboe, extremely organised, always punctual, also confident. Bassoon, the unique one, doesn't steal away the spotlight, but still is a badass. The trumpet, cocky, very confident, egotistical centre of attention, which kind of ties in quite nicely with that video that they just shot. I thought the tuba, ditto, but also fat. French horn, middle child of the brass woodwind, slightly lethargic, light-hearted, charming. Percussion, the cool kids, confident and cliquey. And I'm sure we've talked about this before, whether any of those sort of personality types only ring any bells. I mean, Rich, you've done kind of a lot of big kind of film kind of sessions. Does that sound like any of that's on the mark, or are we kind of is it just way too flippant to call?
Too flippant to call.
Okay.
I mean, it's not necessarily off the mark either, but it's just not necessarily on the. I mean, as each one of those went by, a picture of the exception flashed by in my head.
Of course.
So, but yet, it's not too far off the mark, and it's the same thing as the jokes about how do you know when the drummer's knocking on your hotel room door. It's the same province as that.
I've noticed bass players are coming in for a lot of stick recently. I don't know whether that's a generational thing, because it never used to be, as far as I'm concerned. I always thought the bass players were supposed to be the ones who kept the band together. But yes, there seems to have been a lot of bass player type jokes recently. I don't know if anyone else has been aware of that. Have you noticed those, Dave?
Yeah, and they're quite deserving.
Okay. Anyway, perhaps at this point it's time to say thank you and a welcome to our sponsor, who are, of course, Yamaha. If I hit this button here, you'll be able to, those of you watching the video feed, which I do hope you are and are enjoying, it should play any second now. Honestly, there it is. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Yamaha. The 01V96i is what they'd like to tell you about. In fact, I've just had one in for review. I've had it under the microscope here, and all the things that seem to be bullet pointed, such as the 16-out, 16-in USB audio streaming, the refined studio quality head amps, and the full suite of VCM effects and 40 mixing channels, are all strictly true. The mic amps actually sounded really good. I put a ribbon mic onto it and added like 60 dB of gain plus another 10 dB via the compressor. I might have mentioned this last week. And just no noise was introduced. It was really quite surprising, because usually I would expect some kind of background, and there was no dynamics or anything of gate or expansion going on. And the 16IO USB is actually very cool. It does 96K 24-bit 16 streams, and you can patch any of those USB IOs into any of the channels or insert points or bus inserts. Really quite cool. And there's, because of the way that you can do that stuff with the inserts, you kind of could do away with the patch bay just by plugging everything together. It's very, very interesting and very accomplished desk, actually. I was pleasantly surprised. 100mm motorized faders, 8 auxes, 8 buses, 8-channel ADAT IO as standard. With there's also a YG DAI slot in addition, so you can add some more I/O to it if you need it. Studio Manager version 2 support, which comes with quite a cool editor that enables you to get like a lot of visual information if you need that extra editor. Very, very helpful. You can link a couple of them together as well, which means that you can really kind of go to town and get a lot of faders. Very compact. And once again, want to say thank you to Yamaha for their continued sponsorship of the show. Much appreciated. Right, let's see.
Can I ask a question about that?
You can, Mark. Please do.
Am I right in saying that if I'm running Pro Tools 10, that I could use that as an audio interface?
I believe you could, yeah. There's no reason why not. Because it's hardware agnostic now, isn't it, Pro Tools? So
yeah,
yes,
that would be a solution, actually.
They're not. I mean, they're not low cost. They're about £2,500. You know, I think that's including VAT. But it's a massive chunk of electronics there, and it does an enormous amount. It's pretty impressive, and you've got EQ and dynamics on every single channel. I mean, really sort of and the VCM effects actually sound pretty good. You can put the VCM effects across insert points as well. So dial-up compressors and EQs and what have you, and sort of stomp box effects. There's some really, so you can eat a lot of the DSP. In fact, what I did in the demo, I had a drum track that I'd been using with the UAD 2 satellite, which I'd got all that up, and I just got the same thing, and I sent it all into the into the Yamaha and tried to recreate the sound there, and it sounded pretty damn good actually, and that was without any CPU load on the computer at all, because it was all just coming straight out over USB. So impressive stuff. That's enough advertising for them. Right, what's next? Now this one. This is a cracker. Now let me see if I can get this to play, because I do like this one. This is here we go. Monkeys versus Synthesizers. Been going a bit viral over the interwebs recently, last few days. It's like top trumps of monkeys. It's really... So they got all these 6 types, but they're not actually all monkeys, because lemurs aren't monkeys and sloths aren't monkeys either. But, you know, let's not quibble, shall we? Let's just kind of, you know... needless to say, the sloth was probably the least interested in any of the equipment. But, yeah, we've got some lemurs with a DX7, and then they actually all have a go. So here we go. It's Baboon with a... That's a CZ101, is it? Yeah, at this point I'm getting a bit worried about the mains voltage. Yeah, there's the sloth there. And they did a little cut up at the end. Awesome. I just have to say that was the best. Oh no, I just let's just go back to that last shot there. Perfect. Baboon's arse. That was brilliant, and such a compelling concept that it's kind of hard to imagine why you wouldn't want to watch such a thing. Dave, you must have seen this, even in your busy week this week. You must have had a look at this. Were there any surprises there?
No, that kind of Tenorion. I wasn't sure whether it was 100% real, or that weird Tenorion thing, but no, I really enjoyed it. And as Chris said, it's better than some of the demos you get to hear now and again. But in fact, that end track I thought was massive, was brilliant. The little, you missed it, you didn't play it, but it was right at the end where they were just kind of cutting and pasting. It was good actually, really good fun. I quite like to do the same, but maybe with, I don't know, kittens.
I think it might have been done, but I couldn't help but wonder some of, you know, putting some of these mains powered electronic instruments into cages with wild animals. I was trying to get my head around like that. I mean, some of them are obviously battery powered, but a 909 isn't, and certainly not a DX7. So I'm wondering how much of that was maybe true. Maybe someone had sort of dubbed it on afterwards just for effect. But I mean, as a piece of Vara marketing, it was just a piece of genius, wasn't it? Mark, you look like you enjoyed that. Did you enjoy that one?
I did enjoy it. Of course, if you took all the monkeys in the world and set them down in front of a computer to try and type the works of Shakespeare, you'd be lucky if they got one word. And they've kind of proved that now. But
there wasn't anybody. I mean, it was a bit disappointed that none of them actually kind of did play any tunes, really. I mean, I thought there might be a bit of kind of plink plonk, plink plonk, plink plonk, but there wasn't. It was mostly like they touched it and jumped a mile and ran away. Apart from the baboon who just wanted to smash it up, which is probably about true to type, I'd imagine.
I mean, they've already got some. I'm not responding to what you said, am I?
It doesn't matter. I can't remember what I said now anyway. You carry on.
Sequences in, haven't they? So they're got to do is switch various different drums on and off. There's already a human element to it before they've started, which I think is slightly unfair. I preferred the really random thing where they put the Les Paul guitar.
With the birds.
Birds playing it, because there was something really interesting about that. I'm not quite so sure about those. And 909, I mean, that didn't sound like a 909, and 909's worth an awful lot of money, and I wouldn't want to put one in the cage with an animal.
Well, Lion Tamarin looked fairly small and probably not going to do that much damage. I imagine it could have pulled a few knobs off. I know, Rich, it was very flippant and kind of a little bit sort of tongue-in-cheek, but great. I mean, as a concept, it's a brilliant headline, isn't it? Monkeys versus Synthesizers. It's just genius.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoy it in the same, but not even in the same way. There's a video of a cat playing a piano.
Yeah.
Where he puts his paw up on a note and he takes it down and he kind of goes, and he puts his paw up on the note again and he goes, still happens, and he tries a different note. And animals interacting with instruments is more interesting to me when the instrument itself vibrates rather than an electronic button pushing experience, which they may not ever come to understand is connected to anything to do with the sounds they're hearing. Whereas I think there's a greater likelihood of that if it's like a piano, a thing that is vibrating under the feel of what you're touching so that you have a sense of it.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, actually, because there was some sort of experiment. I mean, we may have covered this in a previous one. Wasn't there a female chimp, Lucy, that I think it might have been Gabriel was writing with? That was kind of musically that were collaborating on certain melodies and making tunes. I don't know whatever came of it. I just remember
gorilla.
Was it a gorilla? I forget what sort of monkey it was, but I wonder how that went. I mean, that was probably you wouldn't put your Fairlight in the cage there with that one, or maybe your synclavier or something. But yeah, there's obviously a fascination with it. But I mean, really, the whole thing was all about just plugging this Vault 2012 Electronic Music Festival, which is in where is it? It's in Uppsala, Uppsala Concert and Congress, June the 9th. Black Dog are playing, in fact, who are a really good ambient act who just got some great albums. There was one called Spanner, which is just absolutely brilliant stuff, and it's on in a few days, and I think that video has had an absolute pounding recently. Let's see. Well, it's still only 100,000. I suppose it's not masses and masses, but a great idea. But yes, there were questions I needed answering. I didn't actually study it for authenticity, but I was thinking mains could be a bit of a problem. And also, as there was demonstrated by a number of those monkeys, just wanting to destroy them, just pulling them to pieces. And the 909, okay, maybe you wouldn't miss a sort of not very highly specified Casio, but some of those others, the 909, you'd probably be a little bit worried about, would you not?
Just put loads of DX7s in there.
It'd be hard. That's funny. It'd be hard to break off a piece of a 909, whereas that monkey didn't have too much trouble with one of the keys off of that keyboard.
No, there's an Ensoniq Mirage in there as well.
Yeah.
I think actually, let me see if I can play that, because that was...
I might do my own version. I think another video like this would be really good, wouldn't it? You could go to a zoo and you could put a singer.
Oh, there you go. They're just pushing
in a cage with lions.
Just invite him over, Dave. Let him loose in that room of yours.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was so a bit of fun, but brilliant piece of marketing. It must have cost. I mean, how would you talk? I mean, this is the other thing. Like, I'm just kind of riffing on it a little bit, because I'm going to the zoo, okay? I go and see the head of the monkeys, the Simian director, or whatever he may be called. And right. I have a proposition to make, which is, do you mind if I put a load of electronic equipment into the cages with your animals and film them and see what happens?
Yeah, in my experience, they usually go, yeah, that's great. Help
do you
yourself.
think that would be a great idea? I'm just trying to kind of imagine how that meeting went. The first part of that meeting, and then what concessions maybe they made. It's like, absolutely not. But what if we just put them in there and don't plug them in? Or I'm just really would love to know. I'd love to maybe do a little interview with the people who made that video and just get the truth about it. Isn't that Simian Mobile Disco? What is that? Isn't that some kind of...
very good. That's a good band.
There we go. That's Mechanic. So that's Simian Mobile Disco. Maybe we should make... Oh, yeah, and here we go. I imagine they use guerrilla filming techniques. Here they come.
Oh!
Here they come. They're coming in. Shock the Monkey. Oh, yeah. There we go. I mean, there's a ton of it. Stop monkeying around, everyone. I'm sure. Yeah, wow. I knew there'd be a few gags there. Thanks to the chat room once again. Everybody out there in the chat room world, much appreciated.
Maybe, I mean, I know there's a lot of little small zoos and stuff closing down with the recession and stuff. Maybe they just thought
they hired them out.
Maybe what we could do is, just nick that band's gear and just put it all in there. It looks like kind of Eno's place or something.
I can't imagine the advertising on 100,000 YouTube video views would get you an awful lot of monkey-saving revenue, to be honest.
You could sort of combine the rock tour with the circus, all as one thing.
Interesting idea. Apex Twin. Oh my God! There it is. There it is. Right there, folks. Nice one, Harry. I imagine that's Howard Scar in there. Thank you very much. That's the best gag of the day so far. Yes, Apex Twin. And also very good keywords for Google, so I might put that in the title as well. Whatever not. Fantastic. Right, I'm going to go to this shot because it's a bit more interesting. Right, so this is the last one. This came in via the Mac Doctor, Tony, who's occasionally in the chat, comes in and switches for us. So let's see. If I press this button, what happens? Nothing. That's interesting. Ah, there we go.
This is the GTar, the first guitar that anyone can have fun playing. Unlike a traditional guitar, the GTar sound is produced by an iPhone docked in the body rather than by the strings. This allows you to get started playing your favorite songs quickly and easily. When you're ready to play, simply dock the iPhone into the guitar body and power it up. With no cables, you're free to take the GTar anywhere you like. The GTar app offers you a number of different songs, and with each you have the option of choosing from 3 different difficulty modes. Let's start off with easy, where you can start playing with just the open strings. Here, as the notes appear on your screen, the fretboard will illuminate each note one by one, but only requires you to play the correct strings.
I'm not going to play all of that, but it's kind of a funky idea. I mean, forget about the iPad and iPhone aspect of it, but this is the GTar, the GTar, launched on Kickstarter recently as by startup Incident. It's a completely digital guitar, and it really reminded me if there was a Yamaha guitar with sort of buttons instead of strings that lit up. And it just looks like it would actually be kind of quite fun to play and learn on, and possibly MIDI aspect to it as well. I don't know what you think. I know, Mark, you're actually you're a proponent of MIDI guitars. This looks like it could have something going for it, and I think it's going to be about $450, which doesn't seem like a massive amount of money for all of those backlit knobs and buttons. No? Fail?
Yes, brilliant idea. Not fail or not. I've been trying to buy Yamaha guitars off eBay for a very long time, and they're almost impossible to get hold of. The electric-shaped one. The electric-shaped one does a few more things than the acoustic-shaped one, and lots of DJ-style musicians seem to use them for inputting their music into computers, so that it's a sort of a viable instrument in its own right. So this looks like it's the same thing, like a viable in its own right. But why have they made it for the iPhone 4 when they don't make an iPad in that particular shape? So it limits it to people who are on have an iPhone 4 telephone, and it limits the market or takes it away from their larger potential market, which is surely like teenagers with iPads. Not iPads, iPods.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't notice that. I mean, that's something that could be fixed, I'm sure, quite straightforwardly, unless it's something in the app that will only run on the iPhone 4GS. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do with shims and, that sort of business.
Just noticed that, that was the only aspect of it I thought was negative, but the rest of it actually looks quite positive. It looks a bit short for a guitar to me, but then sometimes that's quite a good thing, because then that makes it a lot easier to play. In other words, you can bend strings around a lot more if you've got shorter strings. If you put light strings on it, it can be really good fun to have a short guitar.
Right. It's interesting that it's got strings as well as sort of fret buttons. I kind of like the idea of that. I mean, I just wonder whether or not this is an advance, or because the last time, like I say, the last time I saw this, it was a Yamaha guitar, and that was designed for educational, but the neck was really bendy. So I hope maybe they fixed that. But I really like the idea of it for triggering and throwing shapes. So all that had was like a little block of 6 strings just on the body, and then no strings going up the neck, and each one had every fret had a button, but it wasn't actually It wasn't backlit or anything like this, and that's the thing that looks kind of interesting about that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just not.
Yamaha have LEDs in it and underneath the buttons to tell you what you were playing. They had two, didn't they? An easy AG and an easy EG. And I'm sure that it taught you to play the guitar. That was kind of the more marketable point of it, I suppose.
Yeah, KRS1 in the chat room has Kent Spong says, does it cock your song up if you get a text? Of course, I'm sure that's probably going to happen. I know. Do these sort of things interest you, Dave? I mean, it strikes me that something like that for that kind of price, another interface for playing into your computer isn't too bad. We can consider all the trigger possibilities with that.
Yeah, I think I got this confused. I thought this was the iPhone 5.
Yeah.
No, things. I can't play guitar, and I always wanted to. And so at first I was like, oh, this could be really cool. And then after a while, when it started like the iPhone, putting it in there and doing all that kind of stuff, I was like, oh, I don't know. I think I'm probably about the only person in the entire universe that finds iPads and stuff quite dull, really.
Well, I wonder whether or not it would work as just a sort of MIDI interface without an iPad in it anyway. I mean, there may just not be any kind of...
Yeah, no, I like that. I do like alternative controllers. I spent a long time... Well, blimey, from the original... You remember that step guitar? Wasn't the synth... I think I've talked about it before.
Oh, was that the one with the funny kind of... had like a hand... Like it was like a bow saw.
Well, it was kind of two sets of strings, but it was, it was very cool, actually. But it kept breaking down, and it wasn't particularly cheap. And then we've played on Synthesizers and stuff like that. That was probably about the best. And then I had a whole another life based around MIDI controllers and MIDI guitar. And guitar stuff was always really hard because of the pitch bend. But I like the idea with this, that actually you didn't have to be a guitarist necessarily to use it. That kind of appealed to me. But there is something. I've always wanted to just walk into a room and pick up a guitar and not get thrown out immediately.
Oh, what, make everybody smile.
An acoustic guitar. I can't deal with any of this posturing rock stuff, but
you only need to know like C, D, and G, really, and that's it.
3 chords.
Yeah, I like ninths and 13ths and all those kind of things.
Oh, you're in the wrong business.
Okay.
Really.
Rich, you do both. You swing both ways, as it were, both with the keys and the strings. Was this something that might appeal to you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely not. No, it doesn't appeal to me in the least. But if it does, the upside, the good news is, if it encourages people to actually play a real guitar, then it will have justified its existence.
Sure.
The bad news is everything else. Because for me, the fun of playing the guitar has to do with being in physical contact with the vibrating element, if you will. And feeling that, just much like the cat with her paw on the piano, feeling that vibration. And to cheat your way around that because it hurts my fingers to play it on a real guitar for the first 6 months is just insane to me. But, as I said, if it serves the function of getting somebody interested in actually playing the real thing, which I understand the push-button Guitar Hero guitars have been known to do,
right?
Then
I suppose that is good. Yeah, I didn't really think about it in those terms. It was just purely as an interface, really. I mean, if you do play guitar a little bit already, or very well, it might just be an interesting way of being able to input stuff or play other sounds, or just do things with the computer or with other instruments that might be kind of interesting. But I don't know. I mean, is it necessary? I mean, MIDI guitars are kind of pretty advanced these days, anyway, I guess. I've just answered my own question there. And on that note, I've run out of topics. So there was a bit of a dodo there for the last one. Sorry about that, folks, but it's a slow week. When you get to the summer, there's not much going on. That's just the way it is.
They got a ton of funding, though, didn't they? Jeez.
Did they? I didn't see. Did you? You've got some more facts, have you? Fantastic.
Well, this GTar, 691 backers, pledged a total of $261,000, and they only wanted something like $100,000. And I got completely sidetracked. I went off to this Kickstarter thing and started looking for things that might be interesting to kind of invest in, which was really fascinating. Actually, there's some amazing stuff out there.
Well, it seems to be quite popular in terms of like launching musical interfaces, because there's the Keith McMillan Instruments Cuneo, which was done via that. Yeah, they've got 694 backers at the moment and have raised over $250,000. But I'm guessing with all of those knobs and buttons on that thing, it's going to need a hell of a lot of manufacturer investment to make sure that it works properly. I mean, it's going to be real hard to do that. So what do you get? If you invest $450 Omar, you get one white guitar.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, all of that. I was looking at loads of different projects and stuff and thinking, okay, so if I invest $1,000, I'll get a beer mat.
Oh. Best avoid those ones, perhaps.
Yeah.
Just wanted a late call in there for the monkey-themed synthesizer. Of course, the Chimposca is very good.
I love it. That's my favorite.
Let me see who I can find who did that.
Chimposca too.
Chimposca, yeah. Let me see if I can find who did that. That was, I think they should get full credit, obviously.
That's brilliant.
Let me see.
I'll get it for you.
I've lost.
Audio Nerd.
Audio Nerd. Oh, well done, Audio Nerd.
First one to come up with that.
Chimposca, I think, is...
Hero.
Yeah, that is cracking. Well, anyway, I think that's probably. I haven't got anything else to add because I've run out of topics and it's 5 o'clock. So we will be finishing a little bit early by the looks of things. But I want to thank you all for joining us, my guests here on the line, but also you guys in the chat room. We've got a bit of a bumper crop this week, so I hope you've been having fun in there, and that the stream has been all it can be. And I want to say thank you very much. We'll say thanks to Rich Hilton there, who's I'm sure about to leap into a speeding car and make some hits, as is his wont. What a day job, eh?
Yes, the car is idling in the driveway as we speak.
Good stuff. Aiming for a top 20 today, or just anything that'll be inside
Top
the Hot 100?
20? I'm just kidding.
Top 5.
Adam Lambert's came out at #1 last week.
Cool.
Which Niall played on, and I engineered the guitar for him.
Sweet.
Oh, wow.
On one song, on the song that Niall did. Obviously, this has nothing to do with the fact that Adam's album came out at #1 last week.
Oh,
But,
I disagree.
Well, maybe.
You are the talisman that brings it all together, you see.
Yeah, I'm sure that...
Anyway, Rich, thank you very much for joining us. Hiltonius.com for all things Rich, and hopefully we'll see you a couple more times over the summer. I know you'll be travelling a lot, but with Chic doing some disco gigs around the world. But thank you.
Thank you.
And also we've got Mark Tinley there, like being. Thank you for going down in the cellar, braving the dark recesses of your basement for us. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. And yeah, it's fine. The audio is fine, although I think there's some sort of auto gain on your system. So every time someone talks on another line, you get ducked a little bit, which might want to look at. But apart from that, it's fine. And thank you very much for joining us, Mark. Likebeing.com.
Okay, very well. Why are we not going to talk about these this white thing, this topic about
What's that?
The headphones? You've left the topic off, and I wanted to find out more about.
Oh, what's that? Where's that then? Have I missed one?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, you Bluetooth headphones for $39.
I can't see that one on my list.
Where did I find that then?
Oh, it's part of the guitar.
It's part of the
thing,
guitar thing. Oh, I never missed that one. Sorry. That's my mistake. Well, actually, no, it wasn't. It was your mistake. But that doesn't really matter. We could perhaps look at it next week, perhaps. I didn't follow that link up, so that's why I was looking so puzzled and bewildered. But we could do that next week.
Well, I think we should, because they look quite good, and I actually think I might go and buy some. If they work with the iPhone, they might be... because I sleep with headphones on, you see, and the headphones I sleep with are rubbish, so I kind of don't want to strangle myself with cables.
No, you wouldn't want to do that. Okay, well, we'll have a look at it.
Can I have a quick plug?
Of course you can.
I suggest that people go and check out my music in the iTunes music store, because I've gone to the trouble of uploading about 70 songs, and they're all arriving there, well, as I speak now, I imagine. So if all you have to do is type in Mark Tinley into the iTunes music store, and you can go and preview it all and decide whether you like it or not before you buy it. Isn't that fabulous?
Excellent. Well, excellent, Mark. Of course. You may plug it.
Excellent.
And I'll go and check it out myself. Are they all long players, or are some of them your kind of your famous shorter compositions?
There is a 7-second one in there. 79 cents. That's a little unfair, isn't it? You know.
Well, it's a collector's item.
It is. I mean, my plan is to collect all the music I've done over the past 30 years together, and to have by the 30.
I've lost you. Your audio's gone. You're back.
Oh yeah, so that turned itself off after 30 minutes or an hour or something. Yeah, my plan is to have to get all the music I've done over the past 30 years and put it all on iTunes, and then create like a limited edition box set and sell it player or something for £30, like, you know, a negligible nominal. What
Nominal,
are those?
Yes. Great idea.
30.
Great idea.
And then my mum and my dad can buy one.
Cheers, Mark. Well, go and check it out. Mark Tinley on iTunes. Go and peruse those 70-plus tracks. That sounds like a lot of fun. So thank you very much, Mark. And finally, we're going over to Mr. Dave Spiers, G4 Software, who no doubt is working hard on getting that Reason rack extension out there in time for the big launch. Well, once again, thank you very much for joining us, Dave.
Thank you. Great fun.
Right, that's it. It's a wrap. I'm just going to hit stop.